Hey guys, good morning. How's everyone going? Can everyone hear me and see my screen? How's the sound? Let me try to lower the music a little bit. Maybe that? Yes. All right. Hey guys, good morning. Hey, how's everyone doing? Any questions, comments? Why is this so dark? Good. All right. All right. Hey, hi, Lambo. Hi, Natalia. Hey, everyone. Thank you. All right. Well, let's get going, guys. We have a lot to cover today. Have a lot to explore with our new subject, or new topic, or new section, which is 3D modeling. Right. We're gonna be starting with Rhino, which is our 3D modeling software. Right. And yes, definitely. If you need to talk to me. No, maybe that's a good introduction. I've been doing grades as much as I can, and I will continue to do so. If there's any comments, right? If there's any comments in terms of your assignment and things that you don't understand, what is he talking about, or you just simply want to talk about your performance on a specific assignment, project, or in general in the class. The best thing to do would be to see me in person, right? We can arrange something right after class or sometime during the week. But that's actually something that I like to talk more about today as well, so I'll bring it up. But yes, if there's anything that you like to talk about, I usually have time after class. I do have another meeting around 3 p.m. today. Hopefully, we should be done before that. All right. So, like I said, today we begin our new kind of phase. Right now, we've covered the 2D, well, a little bit of the 2D part, which is the Photoshop. Again, by no means are we done with Photoshop, right? I mean, if you have used Photoshop before, or if you have more experience with the software, you know that there's so many more things that you can do, right? But again, the idea for this course is to how to prepare the student to have a basic understanding of layout and graphic design, but also how to generate some architectural graphics, such as perspectives, sections, and drawings that are going to help you present your work for all your design classes. So within this course, we'll cover primarily three softwares, right? Adobe Photoshop, Rhinoceros, which we're starting today, and Adobe Illustrator, which we'll be starting maybe next week, maybe the week after. But we're going to see not only how each of them can help us present our work and create architectural graphics, but how the three work together, right? Is that trifecta. There's also Adobe InDesign, which kind of like puts a bow on everything at the end. We don't really get to that at this point, but there's also that. That being said, we're going to need Rhinoceros starting this week. I brought it up a few classes ago that you should have install it on your computer. It's okay if you don't have it right now. That's fine. As a matter of fact, today it's going to be a lot of me talking and discussing the software, kind of like an introduction to it. So try to engage with the lecture, right? I mean, in what I'm covering, or what I'll be covering in class. And I think the best way for you to do so would be through taking notes. We're evidently going to see that Rhinoceros particularly, it's very different than, let's say, Photoshop in the way that you interact or the way that the user interacts with the software. One of the main observations I can make about Rhinoceros is a very procedural software, meaning that actions have more than one step, right? So, it's a sequence of steps that will get you to an end result. And that sequence of steps, I think it's something that it's important that you not only understand, but you note down. A lot of efficiency with drawing in general. It comes to your understanding of protocols for actions, and again, everything will make sense as we begin. So the first thing that you should do, if you have not done so yet, is download and install the software, right? So let's see, we can go to Rhino 3D and I can share this link with you guys. And of course, this software is available both for Windows and for Mac. They work differently as everything, right? As everything related, software related. So there's the link right there on the chat. You can definitely, right now try to install it. In order to do so, let's see, you go to download. Yes, all right. So you go to download, and then once you go to download, remember that as actually it's not anyone, right? Anyone can download a free trial, right? This free trial is a 90-day trial, which is more than enough for what the class will require. And it's this first option right here for Windows, and it is this first option right here for Mac, okay? Notice that it's a 90-day evaluation, and you will need, right, an email. Any email will do. Now, there may be some of you guys right here right now that are in Studio 3 right now, which means that you most likely have used Rhino in the past, meaning that perhaps you have already used an email to download the trial. A workaround that would be to use another email, right? Let's say that you use your personal email that first time to download the evaluation. You can now use maybe the school email to download a new trial. I don't think you need to delete the software. I think you just need a key that is going to be emailed to you in order to install it. After that, you're good to go. Or, I mean, I would really encourage you, if you have the resources, to buy it. Right? If you can buy it right now, if you know, especially if you're already in Studio 3 and you have not purchased it, if you're in second year and you're not purchased it, I think this would be the best time to do so. But even if this is just your first semester and you're at least, 80%, 70% sure that architecture is your thing, or that at least you're going to finish your associate, hopefully even your bachelor's, would definitely look into buying it, right? That would be right here on buying. And there's a student and faculty discount, right? I mean, there's the commercial version. That's what I meant to say, right? Commercial, right? And that commercial version, it's about $1,000, right? Which is like, ouch, right? Like, who has that money? But again, this is commercial, right? I mean, if you run a firm or if you're a professional, I mean, it's really just another, it's a tax deduction, let's put it that way. Now, the good thing that I like about Rhino is that, different from Adobe, you own the software, at least to this point, right? You're not renting the license like you do with Adobe in terms of it's a monthly subscription and whatnot. I'm kind of torn between that philosophy, right? I mean, I think it kind of sucks that you don't own anything anymore, and you're just paying for life, right? I mean, just pay forever, right? I mean, you just pay $30 a month or whatever, right? I mean, or if you use Spotify or Netflix, right? You know what I mean? But anyway, that's not the case here. That's not the case here. So for students, right, you see this. So for $1,000, it goes down all the way to $200. So that's quite the discount, right? That's quite the discount. This is probably cheaper than your physics book. You remember I was talking to my studio class yesterday, or my design class yesterday, that I took a few years ago. I took a computer science class at ETCC, being a faculty, and just the computer science book, you know, there was this beast of a book. I don't know, like this. I'm not lying. It was like a Java plus or C plus or whatever, right? That was really expensive. It was almost like $300. I could not believe how much books are. So this software right here, Rhino, is not a software that you're just going to use for this class. This is the software that you're going to be using to design in your studio or design classes, right? And this is the software that Texas Tech here in El Paso uses. I can vouch for that, right? Primarily, and this is the software that, for the most part, the top schools in the nation, architecture-wise, use in order to design in architecture, right? I'm not necessarily talking about documentation and perhaps some building. What's it called? Building modeling classes and integrated project delivery classes. Those might use Revit, and again, I'll talk more about that. But you know, as a design tool, Rhino is the go-to. Okay, so what I'm trying to say is that see this as an investment that it's going to take you all through graduate school and beyond, right? Professionally as well. So if you don't have that money right now, or if you rather not invest on that right now, let's just do the trial, right? Let's just do the free trial, 90 days. It's good, right? I mean, it's good enough for you to, number one, take care of the class. Number two, see if you enjoy it. Number three, see if you can come up with the sources in order to buy it, okay? And remember, there is a graphics 2 next semester, which of course we are going to continue using the software. So that this 90-day trial won't last you for graphics 2. So you would have to do the whole thing again about using a different email and all of that. So anyway, there's always ways. I know it might sound easy, just like, oh, it's just $200, but you know, I also remember back in school, $200 can be like a month's worth of, I don't know, whatever, right? I mean, so anyway, those are the options right there. Okay, any questions so far on this? Download, installation, and trial. Again, you go to download, right? And that's the evaluation, right? You want the evaluation right here, all right? Windows and Mac. Okay, questions on that? Let's see. Michelle, good morning, Professor Munoz. I already downloaded the free trial and I have experienced some problems where I can't save any of my works. Would you recommend for me to uninstall, or to purchase it? Michelle, I'm not really sure what's going on. It could be just this that we're talking about. Perhaps you installed a trial and your trial is gone. And whenever your trial expires, that's exactly what happens. It actually says it right here, right? After 90 days, saving and plugins stop working unless you buy a license. So perhaps that's what happened, Michelle. So, but then again, you know, I just gave you the work around that. Let's see. Mr. Santos, if the trial ends before we buy it, do we lose our safe work? Let me read this again. If the trial ends before we buy it, do we lose our safe work? Okay, so the way that I read the question is no. Everything that is saved prior to the expiration of your trial is yours, right? And You should have it locally on your computer or on your cloud, right? Your cloud, not the software's cloud. And you would used to have access to that. The difference is that after the trial expires, you cannot save anymore, right? Um, yes. Michelle, it tells me that I need a license to save my work, but I have only had it for 2 weeks. Oops, ouch. I'm not really sure what's going on. Unfortunately, I don't know, right? So anytime that anything like that happens, right? You go to resources or I'm sorry, support, or there's actually this little chat thing right here. They're really good at getting back at you. I know because I've had to go through support system in order to sort out a few licensing things in the past. So anytime this happens, guys, I'm happy to provide some guidance, but for the most part, my knowledge is limited for when it comes to IT support and help desk support. It sucks, it's annoying, but honestly, it just becomes part of the work, right? I mean, getting on support, tech support, spend a few minutes there if you're lucky, and find a few options for that. Miss Juarez, right? The same thing happened to me. I uninstalled it, then installed it again, and it worked. So there you go. There you have it, right? So there's some options right there. Cool. All right. Questions on that? Benjamin, right? Just make sure to save, save, save. That is just something that I'm glad that Benjamin brings it up. I'm glad that Benjamin brings that up, and it's just funny, I mean, I can bring it up every day, but until you don't lose your work one day, until you don't lose everything you've worked, for so long, and you lose it, you really are not gonna understand that. Cool. All right. Awesome, guys. Let's move on. And again, feel free to do this right now as we're doing this. I mean, you can start downloading it and installing it. But I would rather you pay attention to what we're doing or what I'll be doing today. Okay. So install the software, right? Again, I'll be going through this, so definitely take notes on this. I think the best way that I've seen this work is that with your notes and with the video, right, with the recording, recording, it's the best combo, right? You're not going to be able to perform everything that I'm doing right now. That is not the intent, actually. It's not really it becomes really difficult for you to pay attention and perform the actions at the same time and take notes, right? But believe it or not, this format of online classes, it actually lends itself really well for this kind of courses, which are software based, particularly if the instructions are being recorded, because you're gonna have to reference back the videos in order to understand it and to learn it. Now, if you have taken digital media with me before, or actually with me or Ms. Lindstrom, you may already be familiar with Rhino, or like I said, if you're already an advanced studio student. In the past, we've been using the level 1 manual, and we will reference it, especially right now since we're starting, right? So level 1 manual. So have it handy, right? It's right there on the chat. We open that. It should bring you right here. Okay. So these are the learning tools that the software provides. Particularly, I'm talking about the level 1 manual. It used to be, they just changed this, actually. I'm just realizing this semester that they changed this. It used to be that, we would download the manual and print it and have it handy like this. I still think it's a great way to kind of use it, but I don't think it'll be necessary this semester since we're only going to use the manual as a reference and not so much as a textbook as we've been doing in the past. So what I've done is that the software is really dense, right? The software is, there's so much that we can learn about the software, but rather than going through the manual and learning perhaps things that, you know, they're good to know, but we could be learning something else. What I've done is that I've taken, you know, based on my experience, you know, teaching the class and teaching design courses, which is where you actually get to mainly apply this content. I've decided to kind of create my own kind of version of the manual and just take you guys through some exercises individually. And that's why the recordings are going to be so important, right? Because rather than just having a textbook to refer, you're going to have the recordings to refer. Again, you're not going to be able to perform all of this in class. And again, that is not the intent of these exercises, all right? But go ahead and open that, right? The level 1 manual. I like to do it on a different tab, right? And it is now online, right? It is now online here. It used to be that, again, you would download a PDF and, you know, you do all these sorts of things. But this is great. You don't have to waste storage on your machine. Now, if you want to get deeper into what the software offers, which I highly encourage you to do, you are definitely encouraged to go through the manual here and see the exercises that are provided for you. Part of the exercise, and I really love it because they're very straightforward, right? They're like step 1, step 2, step 3, you know, do this, do that. If you want to follow, you're going to see that certain exercises are going to ask you to open, right, certain models, right? In this case, control point 3D, right? 3DM. That's the file extension for the software. Whenever you see that, it's referring to some startup files that come already with the software, right? So that you don't start from scratch. So for example, here it says open control point.3dm. That, or those files, are over here, right? Or it actually tells us how to open those files over here, right? So you see it says getting the models. Okay, so if we go there, getting the models, right, we see that we open the tutorial panels right here, and we can open these files right here, right? So these are the files right here, and I'll go through this more in detail, right? Cool. All right, let's keep going. I haven't tried it myself. This is new to me, right? I mean, but I think it's really cool that they're already kind of built into the software, rather than we would have to save them on our flash drive or something like that and then work with them. So that's cool. That's new. Good job, Rhino. All right. So that would be the training manual. So again, that's the level 1 manual. I really encourage you, right? I mean, if you want to get deeper into this, or if you're already experienced with the software, go back and check it out. I mean, I've been working with this software, you know, over 10 years, and I'm still learning so many things about it. You know, I mean, again, it's so vast what you can do with it, that it's really it's really creative, right? I really love the freedom that you get with this software. All right, guys. Well, let's get started, and we'll start with the manual, kind of referencing the manual, right? Into what is Rhino, and you know, how to use it and apply it. So I want to take you guys through object types. You know, what are the objects, but by objects I mean the language or vocabulary that the software uses in order to draw a model. Take you guys through the interface, right? I mean, what's everything that you see on the screen? What is it, and what is it for? Navigation, how to move the screen, how to rotate, how to zoom in and out. Modeling aids and selection, that's really important. I'll talk about that. display modes, I'll talk about that. How to generate images from Rhino so that you can upload onto Blackboard for a grade. And then we have our first 2 labs that are going to be due this week. We have the lab number 1, right, which is going to be basically today's lecture, right? I mean, what I'm going to be doing right now to kind of like mimic it and upload it. And then Rhino 2, I'll talk about it. I have a file that I will provide for you guys so that you can start that exercise. It actually is on Blackboard. Don't jump the gun yet. I'll talk about it. Our project number 2 and number 3, right? I'll talk about that. We're going to begin our new assignments. And then, like I said, right, make sure that you install Adobe Illustrator for next class. Ideally, just have it ready so that you don't have to, again, waste time on that. That would be Adobe Illustrator. That's the same way that you install Photoshop, which is through the, what is it called? The Adobe Cloud Suite, Cloud Service, something, right? And don't forget, right? Early voting starts today, right? So, make it a thing, grab a family member, grab a friend, grab a neighbor, and get out and vote. Do it early so you don't have to worry about it later or the day off, which, it seems that this year is going to be particularly intense in terms of the act of just voting, right? I mean, the number of people, this social distancing, and so many things. All right, so be proactive and be responsible in that sense. Okay, so great. Any questions before we begin? Again, if there's any questions in terms of installation and Mr. I'm trying to install and Mr. I'm trying to do that, I'm not gonna stop and answer that right now, just so that we can get going on this. And again, if there are any technical issues or difficulties, let's save it towards the end of the class. And again, I can, spend some time and looking into the issue, see if I can provide some help, some assistance, and if not, direct you to where we can get some assistance. All right. So, so I have a file right here that this is kind of what we'll be or the objective is to generate this today, right? Something like this. Let's see how far we can get, right? Where we can understand, right, where are the different objects, right, that we have here, right, in the software, right? Points, curves, surfaces, solids, and poly surfaces, right? This is kind of like the vocabulary that the software uses to generate what we perceive and call 3D objects or geometry, right? But it's interesting to know that each 3D modeling software has its own kind of vocabulary, kind of like if it was a different spoken language, right? I mean, Chinese versus Russian, right? They have different, again, both are for communicating, but they act differently, and they have certain rules that they go by. So if we open the manual right here, just as an introduction, right, I like to read perhaps this first paragraph right here, right? Rhinoceros 3D modeling software is primarily, right, a surface modeling tool. And that's important to know, and I'll, definitely come back to it. But Rhino is a surface modeling tool, right? And it has many features, right? Many Rhino designers use only a small portion of what Rhino has to offer, while others need and use a lot more and even use plugins to extend the functionality. And that's what's also really cool about this software. It's very common in pretty much any 3D modeling software, but Rhino has some really powerful plugins, right? Plugins are just additional tools, right? Think about it as a small piece of software, but yeah, like an additional component of a software that you kind of like, right? You plug it into the main framework of what it's Rhino, and it allows you to either work faster or have more tools available at your disposition. One of the main ones would be Grasshopper, which allows you to create parametric geometry, and it's probably, I mean, it's been around for a while, but I think it's like the thing right now, right? I mean, parametric design and parametrism, and mathematical modeling, where the modeler, it's really where you design the system rather than designing the object. It might not mean a lot right now, but it will definitely mean something to you in the coming semesters. And it says, right, it depends on what the individual user is trying to accomplish with the application. Even very experienced users will find new and useful tools they were previously unaware of. And this is also important, right? I mean, if you already had taken digital media, if you're maybe taking, well, hopefully not graphics, but if you started maybe taking graphics and for whatever reason, maybe you were not able to finish it or had to drop, or if you had to just learn, like some of my students last semester in Design Studio 2, you had to learn Rhino while learning design in your design courses. Even if you already know about it, I really encourage you to see the content with eyes of a beginner, because you'll be surprised the things that you can again understand and learn. Just recently, and it always happens, right? I mean, just recently, a few students have emailed me, right? Students not from this class, actually, students that already took this class and passed the class, or or media, right? Munoz, how did we do that one thing that we did in graphics? How did we do that one thing that we did in media, right? So again, even if you're already taking media, you might see that, oh, that right there, right? I'm glad that that kind of came up again, so that I can use it in my design courses. This introduction provides a broad overview of various elements that you will encounter while using Rhino to get your work done, right? And these are the object types that we are talking about. And rather than boring you, with reading this whole thing right there, which you guys can definitely do, right? I'll just show it here. I'll just use this as a little reference, right? So this thing right here starts with surfaces. I actually like to start a little bit before that, right? Right. So we have surfaces right here, right? So let me zoom in here, right here, right? So these are our surfaces, right? Notice that right now I'm on the three-dimensional view, right? Which is called a perspective. I can look around and see what's going on, right? Now there's a few observations that we can start making, right? So we notice that these objects act differently, or they appear differently, right? I mean, some of them are open or have some carvings within them. Some of them are flat, right? Meaning that they're just on the ground. Some of them, right, we can actually see through them, meaning that they're just lines, right? Which in Rhino vocabulary, they're actually called curves, even if they're linear. And then also we have right here points, and what's called a cloud of points, right? That we can start using, right? And they work together, right? I mean, in a way, points will allow you to get lines, right? Lines allow you to create surfaces, right? And surfaces allow you to create what are called solids, right? But I'll talk about that because kind of quote unquote, they're not really solids technically, right? Remember that we talked that the Rhino uses surfaces, so rather than being solid inside, they're hollow on the inside. And I'll talk more about that in a little bit. Let me go back to this right here. Right, so we have those examples. I'll talk more about that. Definitely, I would familiarize myself with this chapter right here, so that you can get deeper with the software. We can go into the Rhino interface. This is where I think we really need to make a note right here that this is the Rhino for Windows interface. Okay. I need to make a full-on disclosure right here. If you are working on a Mac, that's fine. That's great. It's doable. Like I said, you know, I mean, there's Rhino for Mac. However, the class is designed to be thought as a Windows-based class, meaning that one of the main differences, right, in terms of Rhino Windows, Rhino Mac, is the actual interface. Fortunately, right, you know, Rhino for Mac, right. The screen is very different. It's actually more like this. It's actually, you know, in my opinion, sexier looking, and it's kind of easier to navigate. However, based on my experience, the Mac version is not as potent and as powerful as the Windows is. Now, this might be a preconceived notion because for the most part, I've always used Rhino on Windows, you know, even though, you know, again, I have it on my laptop, and if I need to use it on Mac, I'll use it on Mac. And it's actually quite nice using it on the Mac, particularly because of the trackboard or the mouse pad. You can actually navigate a little bit more intuitively with the Mac. But what I'm trying to say is that if you're a Mac user, the interface and in a lot of the times the tools are going to be either missing, not where I'm saying they are, or called a little bit differently. All right. So it just means we'll just have to, you know, invest a little bit of time, extra time, in order to get it working. Should I just go run and get a Windows computer just because I cannot use or Mac or the interface is differently? I don't think so. I really don't think so. Like I said, a lot of students go through their school with just the Mac, and you'll learn to navigate around that. All right. So once we made that clear, let's go back to the Rhino interface right here. And what I would do is actually on your notes, draw, this is something that we do in the classroom generally, right? I mean, draw this drawing right here, right? This graphic right here, you know, to the best of your abilities, right? I mean, at least this kind of box right here, you know, diagrammatically, you know, you can do that box right there, and then you can just kind of like start splitting this in lines right here, right? Kind of like creating this panel right here, this toolbar in the bottom, right? Kind of like that, and then this right here, and then just your viewports in the center, just like that, you know, maybe prettier than mine. We've been provided these tablets that I just cannot get myself used to, man. Like, it's just so not intuitive for me. Are you dying? All right. So I'll copy that so that as I'm going through, you know, some of this content, you can jot down some notes. I'm not going to talk about all of them, but I'll reference some, right? So let's see. I'd start maybe from the top, right? Something kind of important right here. Any of you guys familiar, or any of you guys have used Autodesk AutoCAD? Has any of you guys used AutoCAD before? It's a drafting software. Yes. Okay. So there's a few of quite a bit of yes and a few no's. That's fine, right? Remember that I asked you guys to fill that survey kind of like the beginning, right? Does Revit count? Not really, actually. In this way, AutoCAD is the one that we're talking about. So AutoCAD. Why do I bring up AutoCAD? How? For those of you guys that have used the AutoCAD before, how do you communicate with AutoCAD? how do you perform an action on AutoCAD? What do you use? All right, correct, correct. Melissa, Stephanie, right, Mr. Santos, William, and David. One of the main characteristics about AutoCAD is that it's a command-based software, and it's just the same with Rhino, right? Fast and, how do we call it, efficient 3D modeling in Rhino comes from typing and clicking, of course. But one of the first things that I like to point out, right, for your notes is that Rhino is a command-based software, right? Meaning that we have this toolbar right here on the top, right? Which, again, we can get the name for it right here, which is the command window, and it's the command prompt. That would be object number 3 and object number 4, right? So one is that command window and one is that command prompt. Let's see what happens right here. And notice that right now it's blinking, right? So it should always be blinking like that, and it should just be command default, right? So I can type, right? I mean, I can type, let's say, move, right? I type move, right? And notice that it brings up this menu right here, of actions that begin with that order, right, or command, right? Move, right? So notice that I can click and move, right? And now notice that the prompt changes, right? It says select objects to move. So now this is what I mean that it's a process, right? It's kind of like a conversation that you have with the software. It's like a backwards and forwards. And yesterday we talked a little bit about programs in my design class, and it's a little bit about that input and output, right? So right now I input a command, right? I press enter, right? The software replies back with an output, right? Which is a message, right? And that message is what's called a prompt, right? It's prompting me to do something. So right now it's waiting on us, or you, the human, the user, to do something else, right? And in this case, what is that action? To select, right? So we select objects to move, right? So I select an object, right? Notice that immediately the prompt changed, right? Now it says press enter when done, right? Or I can keep selecting, right? Until I am what? Done, right? Now I'm not, the command is not over yet, right? Because it's still waiting for me to press enter, right? So I do that, right? Press enter or return, right? Notice that we're not through with the command yet, right? Now it says point to move from, right? Now it's waiting for me, right, to select a what? A point, right? And this is not a literal point as in a drawing, as in a point object, but it's just any point on the drawing, right? So I can click there right now. Look, you see my cursor, right? I click, and then I can, right? And then notice that the prompt changed again, point to move to. So now it's waiting for another action on my end, right? Which is another click, right? So click. And notice that what happens? We're through with the command, right? We go back to where we started, which is with that command, and just blinking, right? It's just waiting for us. And that's an action, all right? Again, I don't expect you to follow right now, but that just illustrates how this is a command-based software. Everything that you can do with a command, I think everything, right? I mean, I've never run into an issue with it. Everything that it's command action, or is a command action, you can do it through this menu right here or this other menu up here, right? This kind of view, curve, surface, solid, etc., etc. All of it, you can do it with different ways. However, and even for those that have used in the past this before, right? The fastest and most efficient way is to get comfortable, and not only comfortable, but avid at memorizing the commands. and typing the commands. And this memorization of the commands, it's not like you have to go into your room and read, move, M, copy, CO. It's not that you have to memorize it like that. It's just something that just happens. It's like you learn the ABCs, you learn the commands of Rhino kind of intuitively. And sometimes I forget about a lot, especially some obscure commands. I don't, it's not something that I walk around, it's like orient to surface, right? Or surface from 3 points, like that I kind of like, have memorized. A lot of it, believe it or not, is just Google and YouTube, but I can immediately, okay, so that's the command, that's how it works, okay, let's use it, right? So that's more my objective in order for you to teach you right here how to be resourceful and don't limit yourself to what we can only cover in class, but how to feel comfortable, learning the basics so that you can take it to the next level independently and feel comfortable, searching for answers so that you can apply them into your own design projects. So that's our command line right here. By standard, it's on the top. I know AutoCAD is on the bottom, but for me, right, AutoCAD was the first software that I learned. And it actually wasn't in the architecture department, it was in the drafting department, because architecture, believe it or not, doesn't teach us how to draft. We don't want you to be drafters, right? And I don't think you want to be a drafter. It might seem fun right now, but hopefully if you're in architecture right now, you're not here to draft. And that's why a lot of people is like, well, why don't you teach AutoCAD? Why don't you teach draft? It's like architecture is not drafting, right? I mean, it's a tool, right? I mean, it's something that we do and we need to learn, right? I mean, as designers, but hopefully if you're into in architecture, because you want to design, right? And drafting becomes secondary, or it becomes a source or a tool in order to design. But that's the short answer, right? It's not a drafting course. So when I was learning this, right, when I had to switch onto Rhino, I was like, oh, that's awesome, right? I felt like I kind of knew this because I was used that commands on AutoCAD. So that's why I always ask my classes, right, who knows AutoCAD or who has learned AutoCAD before, because it's gonna kind of make sense to you. That being said, it's kind of like my Revit people. I know some of you guys right here, especially in high school, you guys are being taught Revit, which it's great. That's probably the software that is gonna get you your first job, right? AutoCAD was the reason that I got my first internship. Probably Revit is gonna be the software that is gonna get you your first internship. However, I always have my students that come into this class with Revit knowledge wanting Rhino to be Revit, and it's not, right? And it's not designed to be it. And hopefully you can start splitting your brain that Revit is good, Rhino is good, AutoCAD is good, SketchUp is good, Maya is good. All of them are good, right? I mean, I always get asked, Mister, which one's better, right? Or, especially again, incoming students, right? Like, I can do that in Revit. I was like, it's fine, and you will, but you're only limiting yourself. All right. So if you're a Revit user, just put your Revit kind of like skills to the side. Don't put them away. Judge them and understand how they work differently. All right. No. Don't forget about Revit. It's actually really important as well. This is just learning a different language. Okay. So that being said, that's your command line, right? Let's move forward. These little icons right here, those are very helpful, right? Notice that those are part of what are called tabs. And right now we're under the standard tab right here, right? So I can go through these tabs right here, right? And I have different tools, right? So if you ever see that being different to what you see on your screen, check your tabs. Now notice that doesn't only affect these icons right here, but it also affects our icons to the left, right? And if you are familiar with AutoCAD, at least back in the day, I'm not sure, and now anymore, it's been a while that I use AutoCAD. You know, AutoCAD also has that little ribbon right there on the left, or it used to have it. But notice that as I go through, you know, these tabs right here, some affect those icons right there to the left. And notice that there's even more right here, right? So like I said, it's a big software. It's a lot that you can do, okay? So I'm gonna go to standard, right? Again, we have these tools right here, right? That's kind of nice and good. We have our panels right here to the right. Perhaps you're gonna see yours a little bit different. That's just how I kind of like have arranged mine, right? Right, oops, let's not worry about that right now. We have our layers and we have our properties down here, okay? And this also has some tabs over here which with different tools and properties there. By default, you should see your screen like this, right? One of the main characteristics of Rhino at this point, at least, is that you can work on what's called this multi-view, right? So we have a top view, we have a front view, we have a right view, and we have a perspective view, okay? And then notice that this screen is split like this, right? And I can act, right, independently on each of these viewports right here. They're called viewports, right? So right now I'm on my perspective viewport. Notice that once I go into a specific viewport, if you take a look at the little title right there which says top, perspective, right, and front, notice that it changes color, right? It gets darker, right? It thickens, right? The color, right? So perspective is now darker, top is darker, front is darker, and right is darker right here. If you are seeing my screen, right, notice that I have, if you see my cursor right now is yellow, right, that means that it's tracking it. That is from this little pointer tool that I'm using. However, if I make a right click, notice that it goes purple, and if I do a left click, notice that it goes red. Just as a cue, if as you're following along at home, right? If I ever make a right click, you'll see that there's that little, you see how there's that little like I don't know, like wave or like, you know, circles that kind of like go into the pointer. That means that I'm doing a right click with the purple, and this means that I'm doing a right click with the, I'm sorry, a left click with the red color right there. So we have our multi-views right there. Now notice that I can be working on multi-view, right? Meaning that I can see simultaneously my front, right, my top, and my right, or I can magnify, right, maximize, right, a specific viewport. And I do that by double clicking on its name, right? So right now I double click on top and I go multi-view, double click on top again, and I go into just the top view, okay? And we use this a lot, right? We go back and forth between multi-view and top and a single view. And you can change this, right? I mean, you can actually change, you know, how much of a perspective you want to see, right? Or how little of a plan you want to see. You can do all sorts of things. You can move this window kind of out here and, you know, kind of like create viewports over here, you know, all of those kind of fun things right here, or you can just close that viewport right there. You should. Well, I'm just gonna leave this guy out here. Cool. All right. Moving on, right? We now go to the bottom of the screen right here, right? So these tools right here are really important for us. Okay, these tools right here, particularly this ones and these tools right here. Let me give you guys the name for that. All right, so those would be our number 11, right? So number 10 is the Osnap Control, and 11 is the status bar, right? So Osnap Control and status bar. Osnap Control are these little boxes, right? That notice that when selected, they're thickened, right? That means that you fill them in, right? So that's the Osnap Control. And what was 11? Right, status bar, right? The status bar 11 that we need to keep an eye on. And this is what's called our drafting aids, okay? So that's the interface at large, right? That's the interface at large for Rhino. Any questions, perhaps, on everything that I've been covering right now? So far, so good. All right, not at the moment. All right, good, good. Well, you know this, Giovanni, Jonathan. You've learned this, right? It's familiar. Good, Jonathan. I'm glad that you're Jonathan, right? I mean, Jonathan had to learn this in design studio last semester. So you know, I'm glad that you're finally getting the right introduction, my friend. All right. So let me go ahead and break this recording. We are at the hour mark, and I'll do that.